Hello everyone! Today is the last day you can enter to win the Velocitron Override as part of my latest giveaway. If you're just now finding out about it, well, okay, you got a few hours left to enter. Go check my previous videos for how to do it. But while the toy is on my mind, I decided let's go over this concept of gender-flipping Transformers because we are getting more of it now. The Seekers in Earthspark, the two that we have seen so far at least, are female. Now, this is somewhat of a more new thing, at least as far as like prominent roles like this, but it goes back a lot farther than you think. So, for starters here, we're looking at Skywarp battling Optimus Prime, and this is the female model of a Seeker that we got introduced to in Cyberverse, where Skywarp was also female. Consider that. We actually have a whole generation of Transformer fans who have grown up never knowing Skywarp as a male character. I kind of find that interesting, just how things like that tend to change. We don't know if that's going to be like a permanent thing, but 2 shows in a row have decided to do it, which I do find interesting. Breaks the old norms a little bit, which I'm not against, really. We admit the original Transformers was a boys' club. They're very little female presence. So, once here and there, especially characters. So let's admit, in the main canon, in the main storyline, Skywarp's a cool-looking character, but is plot-wise is pretty minor on the totem pole. So I don't mind this so much. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we've seen this more and more. Acid Storm was another one. Well, Acid Storm ended up being gender fluid because of animation errors, but, that makes them more interesting, I think. But when we talk about gender-flipping Transformers, the first one you're probably going to think of is going to be Override, because naturally, in Galaxy Force, this was Nitro Convoy, a male character, very famously flipped female because Hasbro wanted a few extra female characters present in the show and in the toy aisle, which is an interesting take back then. But this is not the first. I believe this is just the most prominent because we got to know the character in the Japanese version first, so to have them flipped to female, that was just a lot more obvious. Less obvious was Airazor back in the 90s. Airazor was one of the characters in a catalog of Beast Wars toys that was given to Mainframe in order to pick what characters were going to be presented in the show. And Mainframe wanted more females in the cast. They had Black Arachnia, they wanted someone on the Maximal side. So here's all of these toys, and they look at Airazor and go, you know what? That one. Let's have a bird. We'll make that one female. So Airazor, this was early enough in the design process that they could switch all of the pronouns in Airazor's bio, and thus you have a female Airazor. Now, this is also more famous because in Japan, Airazor was male. And then when Beast Wars Metals came around and Airazor's brand new toy was very obviously feminine, the first Transformer toy specifically designed to look female, then we had a whole other thing where the gender had to be flipped back in Japan. It's a super weird, convoluted situation. But even this is not the first time it ever happened. No, if you want to go all the way back to the very first time that a Transformer's gender was switched from male to female, you have to go all the way back to Ratchet. Ratchet, when first depicted, when Bob Budiansky was putting together the original names and character bios for Transformers, Ratchet was supposed to be female because ambulance, nurse. Ratchet was named after Nurse Ratched, which is one of the main characters from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So Ratchet was supposed to be female. Obviously, did not happen because Hasbro didn't want any female presence at all in the show or in the toy aisle. Oh, the 80s. But you can see where about 20 years later they flipped the script on that particular desire. But like I said, this is a very old tradition, and we've gotten a lot of toys since then that went from one gender to another thanks to either some clever writing or needs of the time. For instance, Beast Wars Sonar. So this was a character that had no personality and no characterization outside of the bio on their toy packaging. 3H, who was doing BotCon at the time and thus handling some of the collectors-based comic books for Transformers, looked at that and said, hey look, they're not using any pronouns in their biography. We can actually use that. So, since it didn't mention a gender one way or another, Sonar became female in their stories. And ever since source books, the occasional time they've popped up in comics, Sonar has been described as a female character. This also happened to one of my favorite toys from the early 2000s, Night Cruise. Again, no gender, no storyline whatsoever to Night Cruise. Got used in a few like BotCon, OTFCC style stories here and there. I think Ask Vector Prime weighed in on it once in a while. But in the few times that Night Cruise actually got mentioned or depicted in something, they were turned into female. It's not the most obvious female design, but I think that's kind of why I like that, because I don't think a female Transformer needs to have an enlarged chest plate and high heel shoes to in order to tell me, hey, this is supposed to be a girl. They're robots after all. Let's see. Some more famous ones came from Transformers Animated, where we had to flip the script to make drag strip from the Stunticon Job BotCon set into female. RC's design was as close as they could come to actually getting a F1 racer into that set of Stunticons, mostly just because, large spoiler, low to the ground. They didn't have an F1 car in that series in order to do that with. And most every other sports car figure was spoken for at the time. Blur was planned to be Cheetor. Most of the cars got used for the rest of the Stunticons. Low on options and high on inspiration, we got a female drag strip. And appropriately themed to Kill Bill, by the way. So, that's not the only time. The RC design was also used to make Nightbeat a female character, though they only appeared in comic books. They never appeared in animation as a female. But more prominently was Red Alert, loosely based on Armada Red Alert. This one, again, female nurse, and right down to the nurse's cap being part of the design. Red Alert was actually supposed to be part of the original cast of characters for the show, instead of Ratchet. But as they developed it, that character eventually became a male Red Alert, and then it just became Ratchet. And, because, hey, the movie made certain characters prominent, so they threw in Ratchet just because. And this one just got relegated to being something of a bit character later on, which is kind of unfortunate because she was going to be such a prominent character and then just kind of got relegated to a little better than a cameo. Really weird. Really weird. Let's go to a completely different direction. Rescue Bots Academy Whirl. All right, so I'm not much for Rescue Bots. I will admit it's not exactly the highest thing on my priority list as far as like Transformer shows I need to go back and see. But I love this depiction of Whirl. She's adorable. She's a very, very adorable design. I love the idea that you have taken one of the most psychotic Autobots there is, and you have turned them into this cinnamon roll of a character. I love it. I absolutely love it. This is one of those characters that I kind of wish this became the norm. I kind of wish like this is one of those characters that grew beyond Rescue Bots, because Hasbro said like there's a lot of like older kids today that are buying Transformers who saw Rescue Bots as their G1. So can we elevate a few of them? Can we move them up the list and give them like generation stuff? Because this would be hilarious. I don't know, I could wish. Let's move into Cyberverse, which, like we said at the top of the video, was the one that kind of started this whole thing. At least it started making this very prominent because they were very keen on gender-swapping characters. Clobber. Now, this is a technicality, because obviously new name, new character, and obviously she is very different depiction than Lugnut. The fact that she became an Autobot will tell you this is not Lugnut. what this is a compromise between the show's creators and Hasbro. They asked Hasbro, can we make we want Lugnut in the show? And Hasbro goes, sure. And then they go, well, we want Lugnut to be female. And they go, hold up. No, we're not going to let you do that. Sorry, no, you can't do that. Which is weird to me, because they can take a legacy character from the original 84 line, like Skywarp, gender flip them, and Hasbro has no problem with it. But an animated character, came up relatively recently in Transformers history, and that's the one that they're going to hold fast. Like, you can't do that? That's weird. It's weird. So instead, we got Lugnut's twin sister, who is land-based instead of air-based, and yeah, it wasn't supposed to be Clobber. It was supposed to be Lugnut. If anything, I don't think it's really the gender that was the problem, that you can't gender flip Lugnut. I think it's if they told them the plan for the character to, like, eventually, like, be more jovial and join the Autobots, that does go drastically against what Lugnut is. So at that point, I could see Hasbro going, wait, can you make this someone new? Because we really don't want to take Lugnut in that direction. That I could understand. But that's not the official story. So we're going with what it is. Oh, how about Swoop? I loved this depiction of Swoop. I love Nerd Swoop. Nerd Swoop is fun. I like the idea of diversifying the Dinobots. Because let's admit, the Dinobots are cool, but character-wise, they're all pretty much the exact same character. They're dumb, they're dim-witted, they have the same speech tick. It's just old hat at this point. I love the idea of mixing them up and creating unique personalities for Dinobots. Like Grimlock in Cyberverse was actually kind of cool, where he's this adventurous and intelligent type in robot mode and reverts to like traditional G1 style dimwit in beast mode. That's kind of cool. And even Swoop, as smart as she is in the show, kind of goes like she develops that vocal tick in beast mode too. That can just be a thing, and that's fine. But I love the idea of like flipping Swoop to be the girl and the smartest one on the team. That's kind of a trope where the girl ends up being the smartest, because they're kind of like, I don't know, like it's either a writer compensating for them being like the weak one, which I hate that idea, or compensating for the fact that the male is always the stupid one, because those are traditional writing tropes. Either way, I loved this depiction. I would actually be down for Girl Swoop again in some other updated fiction. I'm really upset that the only Cyberverse toy of her is this simple little like one step changer thing that just does not do her justice. I would love to have gotten this design in Generations in some like fully fleshed out form. Even a warrior class would have been cool. Just in case you missed it too, Cyberverse Cosmos also got that gender flip. Minor character, yes, but anytime Cosmos gets a little bit more prominence, I think it's cool. And this one, it was again, Cyberverse was allowed to flip Cosmos' gender, not allowed to flip Lugnut's. It's like, again, like, it's weird. It's weird to me. The most recent one, however, is on store shelves right now, and it goes right back to the first topic I brought up, which is Velocitron. So according to behind-the-scenes stuff, it was the designers at Takara that decided to gender flip Road Rocket to be female. I kind of believe that this had to do with the fact that this is primarily a Prime RC figure, so it's going to have feminine shapes to it no matter what. Yes, you could get away with just calling it the sleeked down ninja, but you still have more feminine angles and designs, especially to like the shape of her armor in robot mode. I can understand why they would go that route and just go, well, yeah, Road Rocket's just a girl now. Okay, fine. So we gone over this list. We acknowledge that gender flipping has been a thing in Transformers ever since its inception. Both because we can't have any girls in the cast, and we need more girls in the cast. Please make up your minds. However, I do have an issue with this, and I'm not going to like sweep it under the rug. We're not just going to make this a video of like, oh, here's a whole bunch of, boys that became girls in Transformers. No. We're actually going to be talking about the problematic side of this. And to talk about that, we need another example here, which is going to be Jane Foster, the female Thor. So I kind of take issue with the idea of gender flipping a character in order to put more female presence in a cast, because generally it is done to take the prominence of a male character and apply it to a female character. So like Thor, okay, so Thor, it's one of the biggest heroes in Marvel, core character of the Avengers. Jane Foster takes up the mantle. All of a sudden, we have more female presence in the Avengers. One of our lead heroes is female. But they didn't get there on their own. They didn't create a character who would rise to that prominence. They're borrowing the clout and the history of a male character in order to become prominent, and I don't think you really do women in comics justice like that. Personally, I kind of feel the same way about minorities in comics. You know, when you take a character and give them the mantle of a big-time superhero, I don't think that raises the minority when they have to borrow a white male character's history, legacy, identity in order to become prominent. I don't see how that elevates the minority or makes things fair. If you want to make things fair, you take the Static Shock approach. You create a cool character and you actually put the work into them. Within 10 years of being created, Static had his own cartoon show, ran for 4 seasons. It was a pretty good cartoon as well. That's the work being put in. And if we're going to go back to the female topic, there you go. There you go. Character from the early 90s, and today is so popular, she is described as the 4th pillar of DC. That means she is as popular, successful, and profitable as Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And she is a completely new female character. You attach her to a main character, okay, fine, and you let her be her own thing. You let her develop, you let fans latch onto her, and then you just roll with it and make her something special. That's what they did. Transformers had this in the terms of things like Windblade. We completely created a brand new female character. We, as fans. It was our fan-voted character. So we create Windblade, and then I feel like Windblade just got overplayed. I feel like they overused Windblade to the point where we kind of got sick of her, and we started turning on Windblade to the point where she hasn't had a new toy since Titan's return, and she kind of bowed out of the last season of Cyberverse, and just kind of let everyone else take prominence, despite being the literal main character for the first season. So, I feel like they burned Windblade out by doing too much. And then in the meantime, we have new female characters like Clobber, like Strongarm from RID 2015, who I really feel like they should have reused by now because they are prominent females that did fun, interesting things. They're fun, good characters. I would love to see a series where, Prowl has taken is impressionable and by-the-book Strongarm under his wing. Show her, well, you can't always go by the books, kid, because the books can't teach you everything. The books don't prepare you for every situation. I would love to see that in a new series, or even a new comic book, So that's kind of where I stand on the whole gender flipping of the Transformers. In the sense of minor characters, I don't mind it so much. But if you're going to create, a more prominence in female characters, instead of just relying on legacy ones like Elita 1 and RC, I feel like there is room for new creation and to use the ones that we already have that deserve a little bit more spotlight than they've had in order to kind of elevate them and put them on level pegging with the rest of Transformers. We're getting there. It's getting better. The fact that Cyberverse is starting off with 2 female characters amongst the Autobots already is already a big step up from where we used to be. So hopefully it gets a little bit better even from there. We know Hasbro wants to represent, and I cannot wait to see how they do it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for not setting my comments on fire, because I try to handle something like this with as much caution as I could. But it's just a topic that's been on my mind lately, and yeah, why not talk about it? So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.